Why are you still poor, even after years of hard work and saving? I also used to waste money in ways millions of people do every single day until I realized these harmless financial habits were silently killing my chances at building wealth. In this video, I'll expose the common money traps no one teaches you about and show you how to shift your mindset to start building lasting wealth and achieve financial freedom. And stick around till the end. I'll share one incredibly simple money principle that can completely change your financial life. 1. Paying yourself last. One of the financial habits that many people fall into is paying themselves last. This happens when, upon receiving your paycheck, you first pay bills such as rent, utilities, subscriptions, personal shopping, and only after that, if there's any money left, you think about saving. However, if you follow this approach, most of us won't have enough to save, or if we do, the amount will be so small and insignificant. This habit is often found in people with low or middle incomes. They always feel that paying bills should be their top priority, and saving only comes after. On the other hand, wealthy people have an entirely different perspective. Robert Kiyosaki, author of the famous book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, pointed out that the wealthy always pay themselves first. This means they set aside a portion of their income right away to invest in themselves through savings or investments. Kiyosaki says that to achieve financial freedom, it's crucial to shift your mindset from paying yourself last to paying yourself first. So, why is paying yourself first so important? It's simple, yet incredibly powerful. When you allocate a portion of your income to save or invest as soon as you receive your paycheck, you're creating a reserve for your future. This money is not for spending, but for investing in your long-term financial stability and freedom. It helps you resist the temptations of immediate consumption and forms a healthy financial habit. The good news is that you don't need to start with a huge amount. Start with at least 10% of your income. When you receive your paycheck, immediately transfer that 10% into a savings account or investment fund. Treat this as a non-negotiable expense, just like paying your bills. When you do this consistently, the money you accumulate will gradually grow, and you will see yourself building a solid financial foundation. In fact, many wealthy individuals have built their wealth simply by practicing this habit, saving, and investing from the very first days of their careers. Take Warren Buffett, for example, one of the greatest investors of all time. He has shared that he always sets aside a portion of his income to reinvest into profitable opportunities, rather than wasting money on unnecessary expenditures. Buffett, like many other billionaires, has consistently practiced paying himself first and encourages young people to do the same. This habit not only helps them establish a solid financial foundation, but also allows their money to work for them. So, if you want to change your financial future, start today. Don't wait until you feel like you have enough money or your financial situation is stable. Begin with small steps like setting aside 10% of your income, and gradually, you will build a strong financial foundation. Paying yourself first isn't just a smart financial decision. It's a habit that will help you achieve financial freedom in the future. 2. Getting comfortable with bad debt. Bad debt has become a common part of many people's lives. In today's society, borrowing money for spending or consumption is no longer unusual. Many people habitually use credit cards to pay for everyday expenses like shopping, dining out, travel, or even unnecessary items. And unfortunately, they don't realize that this can lead to serious financial consequences in the future. Consumer debt, especially credit card debt, is one of the main reasons why many people get stuck in a financial spiral. Once you use a credit card to spend without the ability to pay it off immediately, you're hit with an incredibly high interest rate. In the US, credit card interest rates can go as high as 22%, sometimes even more, causing the amount you owe to keep increasing. This is a cost that doesn't hit you immediately, but over time, it will erode your financial stability. Many people make the mistake of only paying a part of their credit card bill each month, and as a result, the interest continues to accumulate on the principal balance, making the debt grow even more. Instead of paying it off fully right away, they typically only pay a portion, and the debt cycle repeats itself without end. So why is borrowing for consumption so dangerous? First, borrowing money to buy things reduces your ability to save and invest. When you borrow, you're not only paying back the money you owe, but also paying interest. That money could be used for investment or saving for long-term financial goals. But instead, you're spending it on unnecessary things. In fact, many wealthy individuals avoid using consumer debt and instead maintain a habit of living frugally, borrowing only when necessary and ensuring they have a clear repayment plan in place. A prime example is Dave Ramsey, a renowned financial expert in the US, who has helped millions break free from debt and achieve financial freedom. He consistently encourages people to avoid borrowing for consumption and instead focus on saving and investing early. The advice for you is to avoid using credit cards recklessly. If you can't repay what you owe right away, don't borrow. Only borrow when you have a clear repayment plan and you're sure you can pay it off immediately. If you want to improve your financial situation, one of the first things you need to do is cut out unnecessary consumer debt. Start by not using your credit cards unless it's absolutely necessary and always paying off the balance when the bill arrives. Aim for a debt-free life because being debt-free means you will have more money to save and invest. Remember, the less debt you have, the faster you can accumulate wealth. Following this advice will help you build a solid financial foundation rather than continuing to spiral into endless debt. Only when you free yourself from consumer debt can you truly achieve financial freedom and begin investing in your future. 3. Not having an emergency fund. One of the most important things that many people overlook when building their personal financial plan is creating an emergency fund. An emergency fund isn't just a savings account. It's a financial shield that protects you when unexpected events in life occur. We can't predict everything, but what's important is to prepare for unexpected situations like job loss, illness, or other emergencies. An emergency fund is a safety net that allows you to maintain stability without falling into financial trouble during tough times. Many of us, especially those struggling with daily expenses, often don't think about building an emergency fund. In fact, many people live with a live for today mindset without planning for emergencies. Without an emergency fund, an unexpected event, like losing your job or facing a medical issue, could throw you into a financial crisis, forcing you to borrow or rely on credit cards to cover the costs. This, in turn, increases your debt load and creates unnecessary financial stress. Financial experts recommend that you should have at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses in your emergency fund. This money isn't for everyday spending. It's there to protect you when emergencies arise. Having a sufficiently large emergency fund gives you peace of mind because you know you're prepared for unexpected events without worrying about your finances. An emergency fund is also a critical element that helps you maintain financial stability when transitioning between jobs or making career changes without worrying about a temporary loss of income. Think of it as your own financial insurance. While it's impossible to avoid every challenge in life, having an emergency fund will help you navigate obstacles without being pushed into financial hardship. A clear example of building a successful emergency fund is the career of Chris Hogan, a prominent financial expert and author of Retire Inspired. Hogan consistently emphasizes that building an emergency fund is not just the first step in establishing financial stability, but also a core component of a strategy for achieving financial independence in retirement. Chris shared that throughout his career, from the very beginning to reaching financial freedom, he maintained an emergency fund with at least 6 months of living expenses, allowing him to face life's uncertainties without financial worry. The advice for you is to start building your emergency fund immediately if you don't have one. Don't wait until an emergency hits to start saving. Begin with small savings each month and gradually increase it until you have enough to protect yourself. Once you have an emergency fund, you'll feel much freer and more secure in your financial life. Think of your emergency fund as a financial shield that protects you from risks and helps you maintain stability during uncertain times. Once you have an adequate emergency fund, you can focus on larger financial goals, such as investing and saving for the future, without worrying about unexpected events. Your emergency fund is the foundation that helps you build lasting financial freedom. 4. Lack of understanding of your income and expenses. One of the most common and dangerous mistakes I've encountered with many people, even those with fairly high incomes, is not having a clear grasp of their personal cash flow. They work, receive their salaries, spend based on emotions, and then, at the end of the month, suddenly ask, where did all my money go? This is a clear sign of a lack of awareness about income and expenses, and it's silently sabotaging many people's financial situations. We live in an age where spending is easier than ever. With just a click or a swipe of a card, money disappears. But do you know exactly how much you're earning each month, how much you're spending, and where that money is going? If your answer is, I'm not sure, you're not alone, but you're in a dangerous position. Not understanding your cash flow can lead to a vicious cycle of uncontrolled spending. A prime example of this is lifestyle inflation, which happens when your income increases and you start spending more to upgrade your lifestyle. Instead of saving or investing that extra income, you use it for a new car, more luxurious vacations, or pricier dining. The problem is, while your life may improve slightly, your assets don't grow. In fact, they may shrink if you're spending more than you're earning. Take David Bach, the famous author of The Automatic Millionaire, for example. He emphasizes, you can't control what you don't measure. David talks about the concept of the latte factor. Small daily expenses like coffee, snacks, or unnecessary subscriptions that seem harmless but add up over time. If you don't notice and cut them out, these expenses will slowly gnaw away at your finances. Let's build a personal budget. It may sound simple, but it's incredibly effective. You need to track all your income and expenses every month. Nowadays, you can use apps or simply an Excel spreadsheet. This helps you identify your cash flow, spot wasteful spending, and adjust your habits. Imagine this. You're the CEO of your business called yourself. You can't run a business without knowing its revenue and costs. Therefore, if you're serious about improving your personal finances, the first step is understanding where your money is coming from and where it's going. Once you know your cash flow, you can make better decisions, save more effectively, and invest more wisely. This is not something you do once and forget. It's a habit that needs to be maintained weekly, monthly, because finances, like health, deteriorate if you don't track and nurture them regularly. And once you understand your cash flow, you'll begin to control your finances instead of letting your finances control you. That's when you start walking confidently on your path to financial freedom. 5. Expensive hobbies. Have you ever wondered why, despite making a decent amount of money, you still have to race with bills, debts, and can't seem to save a dime? The problem may not lie in your income. It may be in the seemingly harmless hobbies that are draining your finances every day. I had a friend once working in the tech industry with an enviable salary. However, he never had any savings because most of his income went into things like buying limited edition sneakers, collecting watches, and constantly checking into expensive restaurants. When I asked why he didn't cut back, he just laughed. We earn money to enjoy it, right? But short-lived enjoyment at a high cost often leads to a financially unstable future. In reality, expensive hobbies like unchecked shopping, the latest tech gadgets, extravagant travel, or car obsessions can become a huge financial burden if not managed carefully. According to CNBC research, the average American spends over $1,500 a month on non-essential items. That's around $18,000 a year, money that could be invested or saved for retirement. Look at the example of Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history. Despite having a fortune worth tens of billions of dollars, he still lives in a house he bought in 1958 and drives an ordinary car. Buffett is known for his frugal and pragmatic lifestyle. He understands that financial freedom doesn't come from spending to impress, but from living below your means. Of course, I'm not saying you should give up everything that makes you happy. The issue here is balance. Be honest with yourself. Do these expenses bring long-term value? Do they help you get closer to your financial goals? Or are they just a way to fill a temporary emotional void? My advice is prioritize spending on long-term value and learn to control your personal desires. If you love to travel, plan to save ahead and look for cheap flights. If you're into tech, consider whether that product is truly necessary or just a fleeting desire driven by ads. You can also find ways to turn hobbies into income sources. For example, if you love photography, learn how to sell photos online. If you enjoy writing, try blogging or publishing books. Many people have turned their hobbies into careers, like Marie Forleo, who went from being a dance instructor to an inspirational entrepreneur by building an online community focused on personal development. In conclusion, you don't need to give up your hobbies, but you must learn to control and master them. When you spend strategically and balance the present with the future, you will not only preserve your joy of life, but also build a solid, financially secure, and happier future. 6. Focusing solely on saving without thinking about creating additional income. I once believed that saving was the only key to achieving financial freedom. Every month, I stretched my budget thin, from the cost of my morning coffee to turning down invitations to hang out with friends just to save more. But then one day, it hit me. No matter how much I saved, that amount had its limits. Meanwhile, the cost of living was constantly rising. That's when I understood a simple yet incredibly important truth. Saving is necessary, but it's not enough. To truly change your financial position, you need to learn how to generate additional income. In other words, you need to grow the pie, not just try to eat less of it. Imagine you're rowing a financial boat in a stormy sea. Saving is like plugging the holes in the boat to keep it from sinking. But if you want to reach the shore faster, you need to hoist the sails and accelerate, and that extra income is your wind. There are thousands of ways to increase your income, from side gigs, online businesses, stock investments, real estate, to creating digital content. The most important shift is to change your mindset from how much I make is enough to how much more can I make. Take Grant Cardone as an example of famous entrepreneur, author, and speaker. He once lived in debt, unemployment, and addiction. But instead of just cutting expenses, he chose to focus on sales, real estate investments, and building multiple streams of income. Today, Cardone owns hundreds of millions of dollars in assets, thanks to a strategy that focused on increasing income, not just holding on to money. Another example is Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. When she started, she was just a fax machine salesperson with an average salary. But instead of merely saving her salary, she spent her after-hours time developing the idea for a body-shaping product. It was this second income stream that propelled her to become the youngest self-made female billionaire recognized by Forbes. My advice to you is this: keep saving, but don't stop there. Learn a new skill, try out a side job, or invest time researching a field you're passionate about that has the potential to generate income. Start small, it could be a few $100s a month, but over time, it will make a huge difference. You deserve a financially comfortable and empowered life. And you can't achieve that by cutting out every pleasure. Learn how to create more, because that's the fastest path to financial freedom. 7. Overpaying taxes and how the smart use taxes as a tool, not a burden. There's a truth that few people talk about, but which significantly impacts your finances. Taxes are one of the biggest expenses you'll pay in your life. You may not realize it, but take a good look. If you're an average American in the middle class, you're paying 30–40% of your income every year in taxes, including federal income tax, state tax, business tax, sales tax, and property tax. And the surprising part is, many people don't realize they can legally reduce their tax burden. I found myself in that confused state. When I first started making more money, I was excited until I saw the tax bill. Nearly half my income vanished. And that's when I began to dig deeper and was stunned to discover that wealthy people don't pay as much tax as I thought. Not because they evade taxes, but because they understand the law and know how to leverage the benefits available in the system. Have you ever heard of Roth IRA, 401k, or HSA, health savings account? These are incredibly effective tools to build wealth and reduce taxes. For instance, when you invest through a Roth IRA account, the profits you withdraw later are completely tax-free. Or with a 401k, you can contribute pre-tax income to your retirement fund, reducing your taxable income now while securing your long-term investment. Donald Trump, the former U.S. president and real estate mogul, stirred controversy for not paying federal income tax for several years. But the truth is, he utilized real estate investor tax regulations, such as property depreciation, to legally reduce his tax burden. People may not like it, but it proves one thing: those who understand tax law win. Another example is Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. Instead of withdrawing cash from the company to spend and paying high income taxes, he used Amazon stock as collateral to borrow money when needed a move that doesn't trigger taxable events. The result? He could use his money without being taxed like the average person. So what do you need to do? Learn the basics of taxes to maximize deductions. Use accounts like Roth IRA for 401k and HSA. Got side income? Hire a great tax pro. And if possible, shift from employee to investor or business owner. The tax code favors them. Remember, don't just work hard to earn money, be smart about keeping it. The money you save from taxes could be the first investment to help you build sustainable wealth. 8. Waiting too long to invest. The price you pay for hesitation. When I first started earning a bit of extra income, I thought, I'll wait until I have more money before I start investing. Sounds reasonable, right? But the truth is, hesitation is the most dangerous enemy of financial freedom. Do you know that? If you invest $200 each month starting at 25, with an average return of 8% per year, by the time you're 65, you will have nearly $700,000. But if you wait until you're 35, just 10 years late, you'll have only around $300,000. A difference of over $400,000, all because you delayed a decade. This isn't just a dry number, it's a life lesson. In investing, time is more important than the money you put in. Albert Einstein once said, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it." I once met an old friend, same age, same profession, and even a lower income than me at the time. But there was one key difference. He started investing in index funds at age 22, even though it was only a few $100s a month. When we met again at 40, his investment portfolio had surpassed $600,000, while I, the one who hesitated, had barely accumulated a modest amount. And you don't need to be a stock market expert or a financial genius to get started. Billionaires like Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time, also once said, "The time you spend in the market is more important than the time you spend trying to time the market." Buffett started investing when he was just 11 years old, and he once said, "I feel like I started too late." Even busy people like Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama don't skip investing. They understand that their money must work while they sleep. Oprah once shared that a large portion of her wealth came from stock and real estate investments, not just from her television career. So what should you do right now? Don't wait until you have enough money to start investing. Start with whatever you have, even $50, $100 a month. Let's take advantage of automatic investment apps where you can invest in low-cost, high-efficiency index funds. Most importantly, invest in yourself first instead of spending everything and then thinking about investing. Money in your savings account will lose value every day due to inflation. But when you invest it, you're laying the foundation for freedom, not just financial, but also in terms of time and life choices. 9. Focusing only on saving instead of investing when safety becomes a barrier. I understand that feeling, the one where you want to keep your money safe in a bank account because it gives you peace of mind. The fear of risk, the fear of losing it all. Many of us, especially those who grew up in financially unstable environments or witnessed our families go through economic crises, often default to thinking that saving is the only path to security. And yes, saving is essential. It's the foundation. But if you stop at saving and don't invest, you are limiting your potential. Let me tell you a real story. A former client of mine named Linda, who is about 50 years old, has always been diligent, cautious, and saved a set amount every month for 25 years. She accumulated about $150,000 in her savings account. Sounds decent, right? But when I asked, "Do you know how much inflation has eroded the value of that money?" Linda was stunned. It turned out that after all those years, the value of her savings had dropped by almost 40% compared to when she first started. On the other hand, another friend of mine, Steve, also made the same amount of money, but instead of letting it sit idle, He consistently invested in ETFs and growth stocks. After 20 years, his investments had grown to over $500,000, nearly 3 times what Linda had accumulated. And importantly, he didn't need to work any harder. He simply let his money work for him. This is the difference between a saver and an investor. The saver is afraid of losing money, so they hold on to it tightly. The investor understands that if you don't let your money grow, you're losing it every day. Warren Buffett once said, "If you don't find a way to make money work for you while you sleep, you will work until the day you die." That wasn't a scare tactic, it was a wake-up call. I'm not saying you have to become a high-risk investor or jump into every risky opportunity, but you have to take action. You need to learn. You need to start. So what's the fix? Keep saving, but for investing, not hoarding. Learn basics: index funds, bonds, blue chip stocks, real estate. Set clear goals like investing 20% of monthly income. Diversify to manage risk. Small daily actions lead to big results. The average American will live over 75 years. You can't rely solely on a small savings account because inflation, crises, and healthcare costs will only increase. But if you invest wisely, you can create passive income streams, giving you the freedom to choose your work, your time off, and your lifestyle. Recognizing the habits that silently waste money is just the first step. To truly build wealth, you need to train a wealth mindset, making smart, consistent, long-term decisions every day. But don't stop at avoiding mistakes. Take control and design a personal finance system that leads you toward financial freedom and a future of sustainable wealth. That's the real foundation of lasting wealth.